ahead and download Chapter 7, Homework 1. This one also has a text file here that you're going to need to download. We'll import that data later. So make sure you download all 3 of these files. And download and save them on your flash drive. Go ahead and set up your files so you can see the instructions at the bottom and work in the spreadsheet at the top. And this one moves back and forth between the worksheets. And we're going to work with a little bit more of the data tables and the what if analysis, as well as some more formulas. So the first thing, the first task is to import that text file that was there. In Excel, you can also import data from text files or other files. So that's what the activity is here. We're going to import the downloaded text file, accepting all of the defaults on the order worksheet. So of course, it starts off in the data table tab. So go ahead and click over into the order worksheet, into the order sheet, and then there's a column for faculty, which is A6, and we're going to import that data from the text file. So we just click Insert. Is in the Data tab. That's where most everything is in this chapter, data. Click in the Data tab, and then there's a Get External Data section on the ribbon, and it says From Text. So we're going to click that button, and find that downloaded text file. It should say EXL07_concessions data. And you just click import on there. The import wizard comes up asking you what type of file it is, if it's delimited or fixed. The activity says accept all defaults, gives you a preview of the text in the document there. And then, so if it says keep all defaults, you don't even have to go through this wizard, just click on finish. Then it asks you to the worksheet where, and it's saying A6, which is the selected cell, and that's what we want to choose. So we just click OK, and then it imports the data. And it fills out the entire table, faculty there's the items, our quantities, and so forth. And you have an error here, and the error there is on purpose, so we can change it. You're good. Everybody got that one? Okay. When you're working in Excel and you're working on the formulas, there is something that's called trace dependence, trace precedence, and evaluate the formula. If there is an error, you can use this technique to find out what the error is. So go ahead and click in where do you have this thing? I'm just working. Go ahead and click in E7. So if you click in E7, there's obviously something wrong with the formula because it tells you there's an invalid value. So we can use if we go to the Formulas tab, in the Formula Auditing group, see where it says Trace Precedence and Trace Dependence? If you hold the mouse over, it tells you that it indicates what cells are affected by the formula. And then if you hold the mouse over the dependence, it tells you that it indicates which cells are changed as a result of the formula. So let's go ahead and click on the trace precedence and then trace dependence. And you can see this cell and this cell is affected, is in the formula, and then the formula affects both of those cells. The red shows you where the values are supposed to be. then click on Evaluate Formula. Of course, with this simple formula, it's very, very easy to tell what's wrong with it. But if you had a more complex formula, this one would be harder to see. So if you look, we're showing the result of the underlined expression. So it's underlined in B7. If we step into the formula, then it'll show you B7, what value is actually in the cell of B7. It'll display it there for you. If you step back out of the formula, it'll show the value for that current cell, and then it underlines the next cell. If you step back into it, it gives you the value that's in D7 and shows you there. So if we take a look at this, we can easily see that you can't perform mathematical functions on text. So that's where our error is. It's telling us that there's a value conflict. In other words, you can't add hot dogs to the number 39. So if we click step back out, then we can see the formula in this cell. It's trying to subtract the hot dogs from 39, and there is no such number as hot dogs, so it doesn't know what to do with it. So if we click on evaluate, then that gives you what the result of the formula is. You get the pound value, meaning that something is wrong in the cell. So go ahead and close that, and we simply change. If we look here, it says step in, step out to display the values. Close the evaluate form, and the formula should be D7, C7 minus D7. So change the B to a C and press the check mark. And then it shows a correct value in there. Then it says remove the arrows. So if you go into the auditing group of the formula tab, just click on remove arrows. And save that. That's a way to troubleshoot your formulas if there's an error in them. Okay, now we're going to sort our data here in this. So it says on the order worksheet, sort the data by item in ascending order. It's not set up as a table. So all you need to do is highlight A6 all the way down through F47. So highlight everything. Don't include the headings at the top. Okay. So highlight all of that. And then you're going to go to the data tab, and then there's a sort and filter group. Just click on this big sort button. And then you can change the sort by. It wants you to sort the data by item. So click and change this to item. And it says ascending order, so largest, smallest, largest. D is largest, smallest, so smallest to largest, so A to Z. And then we click OK, and then it sorts the data accordingly. So Aspen Falls is at the top. Notice it sorts assorted sandwiches, and then snacks, and then soft drinks. Okay, good. Scroll down. All right, another thing, let's see, we're still in the order worksheet. Another thing we can do is use what's called the watch window. When we're working with a table of data, a lot of times we want to make changes to the data to see how it affects other pieces of data. We can do that in what's called the watch window. So if we go back to the formulas tab, and if we look in the formula auditing group, there's something that says watch window. So let's click in it says add cells E22 and E9 to the watch window, then change the value in D9. So we're gonna click in E22 there, just so we can see what value's there. Then click on the watch window. Oops. Let me bring it up. Okay, so there's your watch window, and it says add watch, so we click there, and then it asks you where, because I've already selected E22, that's what I want. So go ahead and click add. Then it says E9, so do the same thing, click in E9, and then click add. Okay, so what it's showing you here is what sheet it's on, what cell, and the current value in the cell. So we can watch those two and notice that the cells have formulas in them. So that means if we change a value in another cell, the output of this will change as well. So it says change the value in D9 to 22. So let's go to D9 and double, oops. D9 is currently 0. D9 is currently 0, so change it to 22. Press enter, and then watch the value change. You can see it change in the window. You can also see it change here. Of course, with larger pieces of data, it wouldn't be easy to watch them at the same time. So if we had thousands and thousands of lines, of rows rather, we could put it all in this one little table and watch all of them at the same time. And we can see what the values would be if we changed other values. Okay. So let's close that window there and save your work there. The next one tells you to filter the data in the worksheet so that only the categories that have assorted snacks, bags, or hot dogs are displayed. Filter is different than sorting because filter removes all the items that don't meet this criteria. So if we go to 6, so just click somewhere in the table. I like to click up in the headings. It doesn't really matter where you click. And then click on the filter button right up here. It's in the data tab, sort and filter group. Click the filter. And then notice that you get the little filter arrows at the top of each one of the columns. It says to filter the data so that only the items, assorted snacks, bags, or hot dogs. So we go into the items, and we click the little filter arrow for the items, and we can see that all of the items are currently checked. So if we click the select all, it removes everything, and we can only check the snack bags and the hot dogs. Then if we press OK there, then notice that's all we see on our table is hot dogs and the assorted snacks. Everything else is hidden from view. And let's go ahead and auto resize all of these so we can actually see our headings here. So if we hold the mouse over A to where the arrow points down, click and drag all the way over to F like this, and it'll select all of the columns. Make sure your mouse is at the letters, so it's pointing down, then you'll select across like this. And then hold the mouse in between any one of the letters and you'll get the split arrow, left and right. Then you can just double click and it'll resize all of them. Makes it easier to read. Okay, save there. still on the order worksheet. Now we're going to sort the quantity in descending order. The quantity to order. So if we slide over, there's one that says quantity to order. And because we have our filter buttons on, we can now use this little filter arrow. So click here, and it wants in descending order, so largest to smallest would descend down. So click there, and then 62 comes top, and all the way down to 0. And then it says copy and paste the range A1 through F40. So we'll go all the way up to A1, which is our current title, and select all the way down to F40. Let's make sure I got that. Yep. You can just right click and copy, or use the home and copy button, either way. And it says go to the filter worksheet, so click over in the filter. It says to A1. So A1's already selected, so we can just click this paste button there, and it'll paste the data. It says auto fit columns A through B, so hold the mouse at the beginning of A, click, drag over, and then you can just double click between A and B, and it'll resize columns A and B. And then go back to the order worksheet, and it says to remove the auto filter and sort. Because we tied the sort in with the auto filter, if we just go to the data tab and see where the filter button is highlighted green, we can just click that and it'll toggle all of it off. And now we have all of our fields back, and it's set back into another one. Okay. So that removed the filter and the auto sort. Save there. All right, another thing you can do with your tables is create subtotals. Yes. Make sure you take that off. Go back to the order sheet. Now click. There you go.
It says sort to be by.
Missed a step on number 7, thank you. Let's scroll back up number 7. It says, sort the data by item in ascending order. So we've removed our filter, so that means we need to select everything. So go to, actually it might let you do it like this. So you can click in B6, and then right next to the sort, the one that says sort A to Z, lowest to highest, would make it ascend or go larger. So click this button, and then it'll sort it by item. Okay, and we'll save that. Okay, so then we can create what's called subtotals. And we can take different categories and divide up the table and make it display based on the groups that we create. So in this particular case, we want to create a subtotal, quantity to order data at each change in item using the sum function. So the change in item would be at where it says assorted candies, and then notice it changes to a snack bag. So all of these items in here are one group. So that's what it means by that. So let's look at that. If we go to the data tab, if we look in the outline group, there's something called subtotal. It says it quickly calculates the rows related to data and inserts subtotals. So if we click there, the first thing it asks you is, at each change in what? And of course it chooses the very first column by faculty. In this case it says we want it by item. It says each change in item. So we can change the first drop down box to item, so we can use the data that's in the item column. And then it says use the sum function for the quantity, using the sum function, so we can leave that alone. There's some basic functions in there for you. And then it says add the subtotal to what? We're going to use the quantity to order column. These are all of our columns listed here. And we can leave the rest of that alone and we press OK. And then if we look out in the margins, we have 3 different levels. We scroll through our sheet, we can see right now the sheet looks the same, except for at the change we have a new row that says total. And so it's given us a subtotal of each one of these categories. And the next one says show outlines 1 and 2. So if we look over here, these numbers at the top are toggle buttons. So go ahead and click on number 1. And look what happens to your data. You don't see any of them except for the grand total. So if we press 2, we can see all the subtotaled items. So it takes all of the categories, breaks them down, and only shows the total. And if we scroll over, we will see the amount of those items over here in our quantity to order. So that's the way we are to leave this spreadsheet. Yeah, okay, click OK. Just click somewhere in your table. Just takes you to the item. show you what was happening, so that way in case it happens when you're working in your sheet to you. I'm gonna undo mine, just take a look up here. Make sure that this item, if this column's not sorted, then you'll have more numbers. Also, if you have this entire table selected, your subtotal won't work. You have to just click somewhere in the table. Don't select anything, just click somewhere. And then you can do the subtotal. Then you'll see. Okay, good. Questions on that? Okay, I think we're finished with that table. So save your work there. Then number 9. Number 9 says on the data table worksheet, so we're going to go in this tab. Another thing you can do with Excel and working with formulas is you can create what's called a data table. If we remember from the last chapter, we did our what if analysis. What happens if we changed this value? And we would look at our summary report to see how the values changed based on the numbers we changed. The formula would change and give us a different output. The data table is a way to do the same thing, except for, if you remember in our scenarios, we could only change one value. If we were looking at our what if analysis, we'd have to do one value at a time. Where in a data table, you can actually take values and change the numbers and see how it would affect your total cost or your outcome of your table. So that's what the data tables do. They give you and show you what happens if the data changes in that particular cell and how your formula would be affected. So let's look. It says on the data table worksheet, create a one variable table in the range A17 through B23 using D14 as the column input value. Okay, so let's look. We're creating one variable that says range A17 through B23. So let's highlight A17 through B23. And take a look at what we have. We have these row values right here, and then we have one value or one for our column title there. And it says to use D14 as our input cell. So what that means is, if we look in D14, this is the percent that's going to change. And then this is what will change based on these numbers. So what would happen in our table here if the interest rate was 4? What happened if it was 4.5? What happened if we changed it to 5, and so on? We would make a table of data right here which would show how much this value would change based on if we put any of these numbers in this cell. So that's what we're going to create. So highlight A17 through B23, and if we go to our data tab, underneath our what if analysis, instead of doing the goal seeking with one or our scenario manager, we now can use a data table. and there's a one variable table and two variable. Right now we're doing one variable because we only have one column. So we're going to use D4 as the column. So we're leaving our row input alone. Go down to the column input and put D14. Or you can click it over here on the worksheet. Then if you press OK, it shows you, this is the result of the formula for all of this. If it was 4%, notice it still stays the same. If it was 4.5, it changes. If it was 5%, this would be the new value. 5.5, that's the new value, and so on. It's just another quick way to analyze the data without going through and changing this, trying to memorize the number, changing this, trying to remember the number. You can create a table to help you. Okay, good. Questions on that? All right, next one is creating a two variable table. So we're using the range this time D17 through D14. Let's look at that. Okay. This time, not only do we have the rows, we also have 4 columns. So we have two variables. We have a row value and we have a column value. We had the column value in the ones before. So if we look here, it says use D13 as the row input cell. So we're doing D13 for the row and D14 as the column. So again, we're still using the same percentages, but this time what happens if we pay it in a different month? So if we did 1 month, the value should be the same as this table. But what happens if we change the month to a 2 and then our interest rate to 4.5? We could see the value if we did it for 3 months or even 4 months, all in one table. So let's do that. We have it all highlighted. Go to the same thing, what if analysis, data table. And this time there's two values. One says for the row input cell, which is all of this, what portion of my spreadsheet am I going to change to these values to test? And so it's right here, D12. So you can just click D12 or type D12. 13 rather, D13, sorry. D13. And then our column input cell is D14, so again that percentage as well. So we can click there. Notice when we click it makes them absolute. Either way is correct. Click there, and then there's our values. Notice these are the same as these because we still have 1 month. But if we do 2 months and change the interest rate, we can see how it affects those numbers. How it affects our payment amount is what it is. Okay, good. Do I have that one? All right, good. All right, number 11. All right, the next portion, I think it's the last section is this, is just creating our new table style. So we've worked with table styles already, now we get to create a new one. Very similar to creating font styles, like we did in the previous chapters. If we go to the Home tab, in the Styles group says Format as a Table. And what we're trying to do, it says create a table style using concessions for the name, and it gives you the table style and the border and so on and so forth. So let's go through it. If we go to Format as a Table, if we remember all of these we used before, if we go all the way to the bottom, it says New Table Style. So go ahead and click there. Then the first thing it asks you for is your table style name. So just go ahead and type concessions in there. Make sure it's a capital C. And then in here, because this is our table style, we have all the different table elements that can be styled. So the first thing tells you, name for that, new table style, format the whole table. So we have to look in here and it says format the whole table. So go ahead and click on whole table right there. And then we click the format button. And then we see a familiar dialog box. This is how we format just about everything in Excel using the format cells dialog box. It says format the whole table using inside borders thin line. So we go to our borders tab. It says using a thin line. Well, this looks thin to me, but what is thin? It actually tells you here, first column, last row. So that is exactly the one. So this is your first column, there's the last one. So we click on that. And then it says, apply the color red. So I'm gonna click my line first and then change the color. It says red accent 2, I think it's that one. Border first, then the color. And it says they are inside borders, so just click inside. So then you should have little thin red lines there. It says do not close the table style dialog box. So we click OK there. This is our table style dialog box. Notice because we formatted it, our whole table becomes bold. Did you have a question? You just listening? Okay. Did you get it? Do I need to open that box again?
Yeah.
Okay. Here it is. This color here, and your inside borders.
No, how did you? Sorry.
Oh, you haven't got nothing there at all? You have to go to format as a table. Go all the way to the bottom, it says new table style. There you go. Type the word concessions in the name. Then click on whole table, yep, and then click format. And change it to big borders, yep. Click on the thin border. Yep, that one. Very, very bottom one. Then change your color to red, accent 2, and then click the inside borders. Is it red? Yeah, that's it. Good. Yep. Okay. So we click OK there, and it says do not close the new table style dialog box. So scroll down to question 12, and it says for the new style, the new table style, which we already have open, we're going to format the whole table again. So leave it selected on the whole table. Click on the format button. And this time it's going to add an outline border using the thick style. So it says the thick style is second column 6 style. So 2, 1, 2, 6. So it's the second one from the bottom. And then it says choose color red accent 2. So it's the same color as our thin. And we're going to click outline right there. So notice that the outside of the cell is thick, and then we have the smaller little lines on the inside. Then it says apply a fill color to the cells, red accent 2, lighter 80. So we go to our fill tab here, and then here is our colors. Again, this screen does not show the tooltips. So either you can read down here, it says 6 column, second row, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, which is that one. Or if you don't have that hint, if you go over to the borders, press the down arrow, you can hold the mouse over, just don't click anything to make sure that's the correct one. And then we go to fill, and that palette's the exact same thing. So it's this one right here. 6th row, column over, second row. Press OK there, and then OK. or leave this open. We've got one more. Then for the new table style, it says format the header row. So this time we're changing. Slide down, find where it says header row, right there. So click the header row, click format. It says use the fill color white, background 1. So we're in the fill color already. 1, it says it's the first column, third row, 1, 2, 3, so it's this one. So click right there. Fill color white, background 1. Close the news table there. So we click OK there. We click OK there. Now we're going to select, we're on the data table sheet, which is where we are. We're going to highlight the range A5 through D12. And it says then, it says clear the formats from the range A5 through D12. So change A5 through D12. If we look in the editing group, there's a little eraser. Push the down arrow and it says clear formats. So click that. And then it says format the range as table with headers using the concession style we just created. So if we go to the table style, we have a custom one that's sitting right there. If we hold the mouse over it, it says concessions. Click there. With table headers means that checkbox is checked. We press OK. And then it gives our style, but it also has our filter arrows. So it wants us to then convert the table to a normal range, and it'll take the filters off. So with it still highlighted, now that we have our table tools, we use the design tab there. And notice when we look over in the tools section, it says convert to range. Click that button and we say yes to convert it to a range. Our styles stay there, but our table then is static.
Can you do that again?
It's in the table tools, the design tab. If we look over in the tools group, you'll see the button that says convert to range. Just click that button. And it'll say, do you want to convert the table to a normal range? You click yes. And that's it. Save it and submit it to the box. Make sure it's in these. We didn't move them, but just make sure order, data table, then filter. Close, submit the work. Yeah, just 12, that's right. Then you have to go to the clear format. Format of the table.
Are you gonna upload this video on